Heather McGhee. She's the Vice President for Policy and Outreach at Demos. Hi, Heather. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So recently, you guys released a report called Stacked Deck, which kind of goes into some real detail about how wealth inequality is really eroding the quality of American democracy and really kind of misaligning our priorities. And I think that this probably confirms a lot of people's intuitive impressions of what's going on. But you guys go into much sort of greater detail in this report and connect a lot of dots. So I'm just wondering if you could give what you think the kind of key takeaways are from this report and what the most sort of important lessons to draw from it are.
Yeah, I mean, we at Demos went about to try to really put some numbers and see what the most rigorous political and social science research was saying about the link between political inequality and economic inequality. And you're totally right, Michael, that it seems absolutely intuitive. You know, we know that when people who have a lot of money, because of our campaign finance system, are able to influence elections and hold sway over politicians once they're in office, the politicians are going to cater to their interests. But what we wanted to tease out was how much their interests were misaligned with the vast majority of working Americans, and particularly on economic issues. Because if you kind of think about, your sort of Bloomberg billionaire, gun control, right? That's something that he really cares about. That's not so different from the rest of us. There's no reason why a wealthy person would have a different opinion than working and middle-class people on social issues, issues of environmental protections, issues of marriage equality and civil rights. But where the social and political science research really found that these interests diverge is when it comes to the basic questions about how the economy should be ordered,
Right.
how high the minimum wage should be, how high taxes should be, the role of regulations in the corporate structure. Also, things about the different priorities. For example, the report, Stacked Deck, showed that, wealthy people think that higher education should be invested in, absolutely. Think that there should be more money in education. But more importantly, they think that taxes should be low and the deficit should be addressed. And so when it comes down to that prioritization, a lot of their deficit cutting and tax cutting interests win out over the sheer necessity of more revenue in order to pay for higher education, which wealthy respondents to public opinion polls always say they support.
Right, right. No, that makes perfect sense. And I think another kind of important thing to highlight from this report, which really struck me, was that you say that lower income voters are voting at higher rates than they have, I think, since the mid 1960s. And I thought that was
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
interesting because there's this kind of, I would say that there's a certain even among some people on the left, there's this kind of comfortable narrative of like, well, you just need to activate certain constituencies. You need to get people voting. You need to get people kind of in the process in a certain way. And then naturally there'll be a response to their policy concerns. And I think what we've seen, you know, yeah, the numbers are up, according to this report, highest since the mid 1960s. You saw African American voters facing down kind of systemic efforts to disenfranchise them to still exercise their right to vote. But yet, in the broader context of this report, not just through voting, but civic life, political influence, and participation, lower income voters are really systemically screened out, even as they're sort of theoretically doing what everybody's been saying they're supposed to do. Is that right?
It is right. So basically, one of the reasons I, in the beginning of my career, got into policy areas around the questions of what the rules are on voting is because of that concept, right? That if everyone voted at the same rates as the wealthiest, that we would have a different shape of our democracy. I mean, if you walk around the halls of Congress and you talk to, even the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, they'll say that one of the problems with protecting, food stamps and Medicaid is that, quote unquote, the poor don't vote.
Right.
What we've seen is that, and I think it does have to do with the radicalization of our politics and the growing inequality and how much people who feel like they have something at stake and decisions are being made in capitals in Washington that are affecting them in their very homes. We have seen the rates of voter participation go up among working class folks, among low-income folks, among people of color, and among youth. However, still, there is a significant gap between the lowest income households' voting rates and the highest income households. And part of that has to do with the rules of our election process. I mean, we've got this arcane system that is really wrapped up in red tape, needless red tape, so that for people who are, working 3 jobs, who move a lot, mobility rates are a lot higher as you go down the economic ladder. It is needlessly complex to make sure that you are registered to vote in the right place in many cases 30 days before an election. So that's part of the agenda has to be, yes, making sure that donors don't have more power than voters in doing campaign finance reform, but also to make sure that all voters have the same power to exercise their freedom to vote. And that means things like same-day registration, universal registration, really saying that as a government we have to have a commitment to lowering the barriers to voting.
It's almost like there's 2 tracks that I see in this report in kind of democratic participation. It's sort of like an airport or something where you have business class and everything is kind of designed to get people faster and faster access and easier, more and more comfortable
Right.
seating, and then everybody else has more barriers. And wait a second, that's a delay, that's a problem. This is a new form of identification you need to show. That's sort of what it seems like, that we have this fast track process and then this other process that gets more and more bureaucratic, more and more cumbersome for really just having most people's voices heard in the process.
That's a really great image, Michael. I might have to steal that from you. I like that a lot. And that really is the case. I mean, you've got people who, pay the extra amount to do the clear thing, right? And so they don't even have to show their ID anymore. They just sort of flash their card and they whiz right through. And it's true. I mean, if you talk to elected officials, the process of having to raise big money in, $10,000 or more checks means that you spend your evenings and your days calling through people with high net worth who can afford to write those checks. And you listen to their concerns day in and day out. And those are the phone calls you have to answer. And those are the people you have to meet with. Those are the people you have to have $500 a plate fundraisers with. And it simply distorts the political voice that is being heard in the halls of power. And when you look at how much the donor class tends to be far more obsessed with the deficit versus job creation, which makes a lot of sense because they don't want a deficit that will eventually cause higher taxes, and they aren't very sensitive to the massive unemployment that we're seeing in the country. And so it really does make a difference, and I don't think there's any better example of the dominance of the donor class over our political agenda than the deficit obsession that we have seen at a time of near depression for the rest of the country.
Right.